Welcome to the PJ Hoop Podcast. I'm your host, PJ. And if this is your very first time checking out my podcast, first and foremost, I want to thank you for taking the time out of your day to check out my podcast. On my podcast, I predominantly talk about the NBA, but I also like to cover high school, college, and international basketball. Today's date is December 31st, 2025. It's about 1 p.m. So anything that happens after 1 p.m. today won't be featured on this episode this week. But I want to give you guys the segments that I go over week in and week out. The first segment is a segment I like to call PJ's Echelon. Now, in PJ's Echelon, essentially, it's just my power rankings. Understand that it is a progressive list because I am a progressive man. I'm not a perfect man. And so I'll give you guys the parameters for that in just a moment. Another segment that I go over week in and week out is a segment I like to call What's New. Now, in What's New, essentially, I'm going to give you some type of NBA news that's happened this last week, some type of NBA historical history that was made this last week, or it could just be me ranting. Today, I'm probably just going to be ranting. Another segment that I go over week in and week out is a segment I like to call Games of the Week. Now, in Games of the Week, I'm giving you guys some type of NBA or college game of some type of significance. This week, today, I'm going to be actually talking about a couple high school games, so you're not going to want to miss that. And then the last segment that I go over is a segment I like to call In the Lab. Now, in the Lab, I'm talking about today's NBA rookies. I'm also talking about high school, college, or international basketball. Today, we're again going to dive deeper into some high school prospects and talk a little bit about that today. Okay, my first segment that I want to go over with you guys is a segment I like to call PJ's Echelon. Now, in PJ's Echelon, it's just my power rankings and the parameters that I like to use week in and week out when I'm ranking these teams. The first being the team's eye test, and then also team strength of schedule, statistically where the team sits, and then also the team record. Again, this has been recorded December 31st, 2025 at about 1 p.m. So any games that happen later today won't be featured on this episode or in these power rankings. And understand that this is a progressive list because I am a progressive man. I'm not a perfect man, okay? Let's dive straight into it. My number one team this week, this team is 28-5, and that is the Oklahoma City Thunder. Oklahoma right now, they're fifth in offensive rating, they're first in defensive rating, and they're first in net rating. So this team is on track to win 70 games. And if I'm being totally frank with you guys, I was not planning to put them number one this week, but after hearing the whole Nikola Jokic thing, I couldn't justify putting Denver number one for right now. I'm pretty sure eventually they will get to number one, but I have to keep OKC here. They've literally been killing every other team outside of, their woes with the Spurs, which I'll talk more about that a little bit later on in this pod. But this team is still on track to win 70 games, and they're still a dominant team regardless of the fact. Number two. This team is 23-9, and that is the New York Knicks. New York, right now, they're third in offensive rating. They're 16th in defensive rating, and they're fifth in net rating. So they're 10-3 this month. They're 8-2 in their last 10. And to me, currently today, they're playing like the best team in the Eastern Conference. I know that may be controversial. But number three, this team is 25-8, and that is the Detroit Pistons. Detroit right now, they're seventh in offensive rating, they're second in defensive rating, and they're sixth in net rating. So, it was hard. It's hard to win in Utah. They ended up losing in Utah, but Utah also has been quietly a very competitive team this year. So shout out to my boy Keontae George. He's having a career year. And I've been talking about Keontae to you guys since I was doing my audio pod, but especially since I've been here on YouTube. I've been raving about Keontae George. So I'm happy to see him finally break through and get his efficiency up. But anyways, back to Detroit. They did lose to the Clippers over the weekend in LA. I didn't hold that over their head either. That's why I'm keeping them at number three. Because, LA in the weekend, come on. So I'm not going to hold that over their heads. I think the New York Knicks, even though I put New York above them in my power rankings, New York is on their heels also within the standings. I still love this team's defense, and that's why I still got them number three. Number four, this team is 23-9, and that is the San Antonio Spurs. San Antonio right now, they're sixth in offensive rating, sixth in defensive rating, and seventh in net rating. So I kept them at four because I had a great dominant win over OKC. And I'm not holding the loss to the Cavs or to Utah over their heads. Even though they lost to Utah when Utah was playing the second night of a back-to-back after Utah the night before beat Detroit, actually. I'm not holding that over their head. I think also, I don't know. I love this Spurs team. truth be told, I love the makeup of this team. I'm very excited to watch them in the playoffs, and I'm excited to watch their matchup tonight against the New York Knicks. I'm also, like I said, I'm keeping them at 4 because they had such an impressive win against OKC, and to watch the Spurs, the way the Spurs guard OKC, that's going to translate very well in the playoffs, I think, against a lot of other teams anyways. So I feel good with keeping them at number 4, even though they lost those 2 games against the Cavs in Utah, which ain't no fault in losing to the Cavs. Even though the Cavs have been a little down this year, there's still no fault in losing to the Cavs. That's still a good team. And then going into Utah, it's always tough to go into Utah, really, since Utah as of late has been a competitive team. Number 5, this team is 20-10, and that is the Houston Rockets. Houston right now, they're 2nd in offensive rating, 8th in defensive rating, and 2nd in net rating. Kevin Durant, man, KD so far this month is playing lights out. He's shooting 55% from the field, 49% from 3, 91 from the free throw line, averaging 27, 5, and 5. They're 7-6 on the month, but they're still playing like a top 5 offense. They're 10-5 against teams above 500, but they're still 1-4 in games decided by 3 points, and they're still 6-8 in clutch time games. I really want to see them play in more close games, so I'm kind of going to hold out and keep them at number 5 this week. I still really love this team. Number 6, this team is 20-12, and that is the Boston Celtics. Boston right now, they're 4th in offensive rating, they're 15th in defensive rating, and they're 4th in net rating. A very impressive record for Boston this year. For sure, they have exceeded my expectations. They're 11-8 this year against the teams above 500. Not holding the loss to Portland. I'm sorry, I had a moment. I'm not holding the loss to Portland over their head because it's hard to go into Portland and win, even though Portland right now is missing a lot of players. But shout out to Denny. I mean, Denny's hooping. He's averaging, I think he's averaging 25, like 7-7, or 26, 7-7. And then shout out to my boy Shaden Sharp as well. He's hooping. He's averaging 22 points in under 30 minutes, which I believe ranks, I think that's the 4th most points per game, with averaging 30 minutes or less per game. So shout out to Portland, and shout out to Denny Advia and Shaden for carrying the Blazers during this time while this team is dealing with a bunch of injuries. But yeah, Boston, I feel good with them being number 6. This is a high-powered offense, and Jaylen Brown is 2nd team All-NBA this year, no doubt in my mind. Number 7, this team is 21-12. And that is the Minnesota Timberwolves. Minnesota right now, they're 9th in offensive rating. They're 5th in defensive rating, and they're 8th in net rating. So to me, they've kind of benefited a lot from this early schedule. They're 16-3 against teams below 500. They did lose to the Nets. I'm not going to hold that too badly over their heads because you got to remember a couple days before they played the Nets, they had that, very high scoring and up and down and physical game with the Denver Nuggets, which kind of had a playoff feel to it. So I think they probably just got tired playing Brooklyn, so I'm not holding that over their heads. They got the 13th toughest remaining schedule. They got 3 games against Houston, 2 against OKC, 2 against Detroit, and 2 against the Spurs. They're number 7 this week for me. That's the Minnesota Timberwolves. Number 8, this team is 22-10, and that is the Denver Nuggets. Denver right now, they're 1st in offensive rating, 21st in defensive rating, and they're 3rd in net rating. So unfortunately, no Joker, no Christian Braun, no Cam Johnson, no Aaron Gordon. I think potentially what I was reading, what I kind of scooped up was that Gordon and Braun potentially could be back by the end of next week. So I think that's some good news for Denver and Denver's fans. In my opinion, and I'm just going to say this and put it on the record, I was deciding if I wanted to wait to say this, but I think the Denver Nuggets are the best team in basketball when completely with being whole. I think the times that I've seen them whole this year, I think they're the best team in basketball. I think for me right now today, they are my favorites to win the NBA title. You got Jokic playing at the peak of his prime right now. Jamal Murray has entered the peak of his prime. You got Aaron Gordon shooting the ball like his rent is due. You still got Christian Braun, you got Spencer Jones, Peyton Watson playing. All 3 of those are very good physical and big and long defenders. They got lights out shooting with Tim Hardaway. Tim Hardaway's having a career year shooting. He's shooting 47% from the field, 41 from 3, 91 from the free throw line. And then you got the Swiss Army Knight and Bruce Brown kind of doing a little bit of everything for this team. I think this is the best defensive team Denver's had during Nikola Jokic's era. And I also think this is the most complete team they've had. So to me, if they don't win the title, barring injuries, it's a disappointment to me. And if Nikola Jokic is who we all think he is, the Denver Nuggets should win the NBA title this year. Number 9, this team is 18-15. And that is Orlando Magic. Orlando right now, they're 15th in offensive rating, 11th in defensive rating, and they're 13th in net rating. They lost a really big lead to the Toronto Raptors, and it's kind of bad because Toronto was on a second night of a back-to-back. But Orlando did have to fly up to Toronto, which is about a 3-hour flight roughly. And also, they had a really couple nights before that, I think it was like 2 nights before that, they had a very competitive and high-scoring game against Denver. So I'm assuming combination of that game against Denver and then also having to go through that flight. I think Orlando kind of just ran out of gas towards the end in that Toronto game. But still no excuse to lose because I think they were up by like 20 or something. Still no excuses. But still, I'm not killing them for that. To me, this is a much more balanced team than they have been in years past. So progression over perfection in Orlando. Number 10, this team is 20-14, and that is the Toronto Raptors. Toronto right now, they're 20th in offensive rating. They're 7th in defensive rating, and they're 14th in net rating. They're 8-8 against teams above 500. Scotty Barnes has been the quarterback of this outstanding defense all year long. And watching him in the fast break, it's something just to marvel at. It's a thing of beauty. It's very fun to watch. You never know what he's going to do. If you haven't seen him in transition or even watched Toronto, I would highly recommend watching Toronto. They got a fun back-to-back game against Atlanta. I think they have 2 straight home games against Atlanta. I think it's Sunday and Monday they play, I believe, if I remember correctly. But yeah, so that's going to be a fun matchup I'll be watching out for. Teams that are on my bubble: Cleveland Cavaliers, the Phoenix Suns, the Lakers, and the Miami Heat. You guys let me know down in the comment section below who's in your top 10 and who do you have on your bubble. My next segment is a segment I like to call What's New. Now, What's New? I'm giving you guys some type of NBA news or some type of NBA historical history that was made over this last week, or I'm ranting. Today I'm going to rant. We're just going to dive straight into it. I don't want to waste any more time because I have a lot of things that's been on my mind, and I'm probably going to rant for the next few weeks. Let's talk about what's going on in Dallas. I've seen a lot of reports saying AD and Klay Thompson are potentially going to get traded. I want to go back to what I talked about in the summer to you guys about this whole Dallas thing. And literally during the summer, I said I would shut down AD and I would shut down Kyrie for the year, and I would tank the year and try to get a high-level guard in the draft to pair with Cooper Flag. And then next year, I'll bring the whole band back, plus I have another young guy to run with Cooper Flag. I still stand by that. I still believe, and even today, more so even than what I felt during the summer, I think you shut Anthony Davis down for the year. I think you keep Klay Thompson. Because Derek Lively's already done for the year. So I think you shut down AD for the year. You don't let Kyrie come back this year. If you want to let Kyrie play the last 10 games or something just so he can get his feet wet, okay, I'm fine with that. But I wouldn't play AD. I wouldn't play Kyrie. And just let the team be how it currently is and let those players play. Unless there's a market great enough for Daniel Gafford, unless you can get something that's really worth it, then I would get off with Daniel Gafford. Otherwise, I'm keeping this same team because in my opinion, and I've been on the record to say this, the sooner you can get these young guys in the playoffs, the better off typically their careers are. Just take, for example, the greats that have done it. And think about just the players that have gotten to the playoffs early and have won, or even just gone deep into the playoffs and not necessarily won. The better off these players are is when they get there at a young age. And that's what I'm talking about pertaining to Cooper Flag. Cooper's only 19. So I would not strip this team down because I think he really could benefit of AD, Kyrie, and Klay and them getting him into the playoffs. And so he can get his feet wet and so he can know what part of his game really needs to be refined. And I know it's kind of a slippery slope because these players are chronically injured. But to me, that's a risk I would take because I just don't think the return you can get for all those players is going to equate to what the long-term benefits there will be for Cooper Flag. So if I'm Dallas, I'm keeping the team whole, and I am shutting down AD and Kyrie this year, and I'm trying to get a high lottery pick or at least a top 11, top 10 pick. So then at least once Kyrie and AD's contracts are up, then that way at least you still have Cooper Flag, Derek Lively, potentially Max Christie. We'll see what happens with him because I think he has a player option after next year. So we'll see what happens with him. But you'll still have Cooper Flag, Derek Lively, and then whatever kid you draft. And it's not like Dallas has no picks moving forward. They just don't control their own. So they still will have a first round pick. It'd just be kind of a variable one, we don't know where it would land. But yeah, so I just wanted to say that about the whole Dallas thing. I would not trade AD. I just wouldn't do it. I know the whole injury thing, but I just think the benefits, because all you need is for him, Kyrie, and for the band to all be healthy for 16 games, right? Just during that playoff run. And honestly, I'm going to say more than 16. I'll say you need all of them to be healthy for at least, I would say 35 games, 35, 40 games. I'm just saying playing at least, 15 to 20 games during the regular season and then the playoff run. I just would not destroy this team. I just wouldn't do it personally. And plus, you only got to deal with it for 2 more years, right? You got next year when Kyrie and Derek Lively be back. And then probably the year after that because Kyrie and AD got player options. But, yeah, I don't know. I just wouldn't do it. So I just wanted to let you guys know that because that was on my mind. And like I said, I already talked about it during the summer. But if you didn't watch my season preview Southwest Division episode, you would have never heard me say it. But I just wanted to reiterate that again. Another thing that I want to talk about, let's talk about Oklahoma City. I think we've all recognized and we've all felt that the Spurs were built to beat OKC or were gearing up to be able to be built to beat OKC. I think we've all felt that for a while now, not just based on the results that they showed us against OKC, but before that, I feel like a lot of us were aware of that. I think also with what the most recent matchup shown me is that I believe Oklahoma City, I think they need Giannis. And let me be clear on what I'm saying. I think the way Wemby was on the court, he was mocking Chet. He was punking, not even just Chet, the whole Oklahoma City team. San Antonio's physicality was glaringly overwhelming for Oklahoma City in every matchup they played this year. And what is Giannis going to do? And there was nobody. I didn't see not one player stick up for Chet when Wemby was doing the stuff he was doing. And maybe I just missed it. And if I missed it, you guys let me know down in the comment section below. But that's just what I seen. I'm like, this dude is punking them. Wemby is on a mission to take Chet's soul. Like, that is what this man is trying to rip his soul out, laughing at him and yelling when he misses a free throw. You don't see that in the NBA, like, at that level and, like, for a regular season game. I don't know. You just don't see it, right? Like, he is trying to rip this man's heart out. And there's nobody on Oklahoma City that's trying to protect this man. And I think a player like Giannis would. I think Giannis would be able to match the Spurs' physicality. And if I'm Oklahoma, now you guys may ask, well, yeah, Giannis has injury problems. I don't care. I think you take that risk. Giannis, I think, at least has probably 3 more years of being at his peak and playing at an MVP level. But that lines up more with Shea's timeline than because that's who, truth be told, that's whose timeline you're really trying to max out is Shea's. Most likely, and I feel I'm going to put about a 95% chance of what I'm feeling that Jalen Williams and Chet would never be MVP level players. They won't. So what does that mean? That means you need to max out your MVP level player, his prime, and his time with the team, which is Shea. So this is what I would do. If I'm Oklahoma City, I'm packaging Chet. I'm sending Chet, keeping Jalen Williams. I'm trading Chet to Milwaukee, but not just Chet, because I think you might have to do cap fillers. I would give up another one of those guys at the end of the bench, maybe Usman Dang, and if they want like Aja Mitchell or like Isaiah Joe or Aaron Wiggins, they got one of those players. That's fine. But for sure, I'm giving up Chet. I'll give up one of those other guys just to make the caps work. If you don't need to give up nobody else to make the cap work, then I would obviously won't give nobody else up outside of Chet. But I would give up Chet. And then along with Chet, I'm giving, because currently how it stands, Oklahoma's projected to have 4 first-round picks in this draft. They got Philadelphia's, Utah's, Houston's, and then, I'm blanking. Oh, the Clippers. And they have the Clippers pick, right? So they got 4 first-round picks in this draft. More likely than not, they're at least going to have 3. We'll see what happens with Utah, but they're at least going to have 3. They're for sure going to have the Clippers, Philly, and Houston's first-round picks. So that's 3, right? Milwaukee owns their own pick in this draft. Basically, they own the lesser of theirs and the Pelicans pick, which obviously the Pelicans pick is way worse. So Milwaukee basically keep their original pick. currently as it sits, Milwaukee potentially could have, they would potentially have 3 lottery picks, because even if they get Utah's pick, I think Utah's pick is top, I think 7 or 8, I think it's like top 8 protected right now. I think it's slotted at like 9 or 10 right now. So even if you take Utah's pick out, they'll still have their own pick as a lottery pick. They'll have the Clippers pick, which that may not even be a lottery pick for much longer. I mean, the Clippers look like they're kind of are figuring it out. But still, one way or another, you basically can give Milwaukee 4 to 5 first-round picks in this draft to basically start up their rebuild. Yes, obviously, Milwaukee still owes 3 future first-round picks to the Blazers, and they still owe 1 more to the Pelicans next year. But you can swallow that. You can take that on the chin, because this draft has a plethora of players, even outside of the top 5, that are going to be able to contribute to the team. So what better way than, and you'll still have Kevin Porter on the team, who's had has had a resurrecting season, in my opinion. I predicted that he would during my Milwaukee Bucks season preview episode. You still got Ryan Rollins, which is, you found him a diamond in the rough. You can do what you want to do with Miles Turner. I would probably trade Miles Turner personally. You could probably get at least a first for him and get off that contract. But that's what I would do if I was Milwaukee. I would trade Giannis to OKC, and then that way he's in the Western Conference as well. And now OKC, you still got all your bench players. You just added another MVP on your team, and now you're maximizing. And you still got the rest of those draft picks coming down the pipeline. And you got, I'm just saying that's what I would do. But I do think OKC need Giannis, and I think if they don't get Giannis, I think the Spurs, OKC may be able to hold the Spurs off if they play in the playoffs this year, maybe, and I'm going to hold out a final judgment on that as we get closer to the playoffs. We'll see where I stand, but they may be able to still hold them off for 1 more year, but I would say at the maximum, they only got 1 more year to hold off the Spurs. And then we're talking about a clash of the Titans and OKC not being able to really run the West like they were projected to be, because the Spurs are on their tail. They really are. And so I just wanted to tell you guys that, because I know it's crazy to say that. It might be crazy for me to be saying this to you guys. You guys maybe think I'm nuts, right? Because OKC's won all these games and they've only lost to the Spurs, but I just see the writing on the wall. This is just very reminiscent to me of when OKC was very first coming on the scene with KD, Russ, and Harden and Ibaka. They were just overwhelming teams in the playoffs. I remember it was the playoff run where they beat who'd they beat? I think they beat the Lakers. It was either the Lakers they played or the Spurs. No, it was either the Spurs or Memphis. They played one of those teams, and maybe the Lakers too. But it was a playoff run with KD and them. I think it was that run where they got to the finals. But they were just overwhelming teams. It was just glaring. It was like, whoa. And unfortunately, it's weird to say, but that's what I see with the Spurs when they play OKC. And OKC looks defeated too. It's weird. They look defeated when they play the Spurs. We'll see what happens January 13th. Maybe I'm just crazy, and maybe I'm totally out of the norm and I'm wrong. But I just wanted to put that on the record and tell you, again, this is just what's in my mind, right? So I want to share it with you guys. Last thing I want to talk about, and then we'll kind of go to the next segment. I know I'm spending a lot of time on this, but also I just want to highlight just really quickly, I think Giannis will end up in the Western Conference as well. I think, and this is my kind of hot take / prediction for 2026 when it comes to like the trade mill and kind of like the power of the NBA kind of shifting. I think Giannis ends up in the West. I think the teams that I think he'll end up on, like I just said to you guys, potentially one is OKC. I think another team is Minnesota, because Ant got to get somebody got to get to Minnesota, and somebody got to get to LA with Luka. I don't like the whole Austin Reeves thing with the Lakers. I don't know. I just don't like the Austin Reeves and Luka pairing long term. I don't, and I believe if that's a long term pairing, I don't think they're winning a title with Austin Reeves being their second best player. I don't. I'll put that on the record to you guys. I really like, and then also, I think Giannis ends up in one of those places. I think AJ DeBonsa, and then Darren Peterson. These are arguably 2 of the top 3 best prospects coming out in next year's draft. I think both of those players are going to end up in the Eastern Conference. And yeah, so I guess that's kind of like one of my hot takes I'm giving you guys for 2026. I just wanted to put it on the mark. I just wanted to put it on the record with you guys. I would like, personally, if it's up to me, I would like to see DP in Sacramento just to revive that franchise. I just think it would be great for him to stay in California. But I think it's likely that both of them end up in the East, because if you really look at the West and the East really, like, yes, they have Cade, they got Paulo, they got Franz, they got Tyrese Maxey. You know, I know a lot of people still love LaMelo. They got LaMelo. They got Scotty Barnes. Like, the East has some young guys, but I just feel like they don't have many guys that are like MVP level players in that conference. Like Cade is and will be for years to come. But I just feel like, to me, it doesn't make sense. I just think they're going to put those two guys in the East because I think the East needs that. And I think AJ and DP could potentially both develop into those kind of players. Obviously, situationally, where they land is going to matter, but they have that upside. Okay, I'll just leave it at that. They have that upside, and I think the East could use those two guys more so than the West. And all sports are rigged, so obviously I'm predicting that the NBA is going to look at the landscape and be like, yeah, we need to put both of those guys in the East because the West already has a bunch of young upcoming guys. The West does. If you look at the West, there's a bunch of young and upcoming guys that are going to be all NBA and all stars like crazy. I feel like the East doesn't have as many, and putting those two guys in the East would at least add that to it, right? Would add that kind of flavor to it. So that's also something I wanted to tell you guys. And then I wanted to talk a little bit more about the whole Lakers and Luka thing. I told you guys over the summer that it was kind of just a gap year for the Lakers, in my opinion, because a lot of these guys are going to come off the books this upcoming summer. It's going to be interesting to see how they decide to do the makeup of this team around Luka. Do you trade Austin Reeves to Milwaukee to go get Giannis? I don't know. We'll see what happens there. But I was thinking of something. As the Lakers, do you try to go get Cam Thomas in the open market and just wait till he goes open market? Because you can get him for cheaper than what you can get Austin Reeves. So there's a backcourt mate for Luka. And then do you go and try and trade or try to get an open market a player like Jonathan Kuminga? Or do you try to trade for Giannis? Something's going to happen in LA. They got some great new owners, for one. But also, I know the NBA is going to make sure there's a comparable and a respectable team around Luka. I just am not sure what that looks like. But these are just names that are just coming to my mind. Players like Cam Thomas, Jonathan Kuminga, Giannis. There's somebody. LA's going to get somebody. And if they do run with this Luka and Austin Reeves thing, like I told you guys, I don't think they're going to win a title. I think Luka does need, ideally, a Giannis, right? If they can get Cam Thomas in free agency and then trade for Giannis by signing Austin Reeves to a long-term deal and having Milwaukee take on that money, great. That would be, I think, ideally what would happen for them. But yeah, so that's something else I wanted to just kind of throw at you guys. Next week, we're going to talk about just the NBA decades and who defined the last 40, 50 years in the NBA. And who I think is going to define the next 10. Okay, so then we'll do that next week with you guys. I've been saving that for a long time, so I'm excited to talk about that with you guys. But anyways, let's go to the next segment. You guys let me know down in the comment section below, what's new with you guys. I'm sorry I kind of just went on that tangent, but this is just stuff that's been on my mind, and I've been wanting to get it out to you guys. My next segment is a segment I like to call Games of the Week. Now, in Games of the Week, I am talking about some type of NBA or college game that I enjoyed watching, or it could be a game of some type of significance. Today, we're actually going to talk about some high school basketball. I went to the Les Schwab tournament over the last couple days. There's a couple games that I want to talk to you guys about that I enjoyed watching and kind of some scouting that I did. So the first matchup, we had Rainier Beach out of Washington versus Tualatin out of Oregon. This was the fifth place game. Rainier Beach ended up winning the game 86-69. In this game, we had the number one rated player, Tyron Stokes, in class of 2026. And then we also had Jamal Crawford's son, JJ Crawford. He's in class of 2029. I think he's only, a freshman? They had him in the game as well. So in the first half, Tualatin, they handled themselves. There was a couple plays where they really hit Tyron Stokes to let him know, like, hey, we're not scared of you, and he fell over. He's a big boy, man. Tyron Stokes is a big guy. I think a lot of Rainier also played a deadly press defense on Tualatin, and I think that kind of rattled them for a good chunk of the first half. But towards the end of the half, Tualatin kind of got their act together and kind of cleaned up some things. And then In the second half, I think Rainier's Beach length and the physicality was just too much for Tualatin to keep up. Tyron Stokes in the second half, I think, was just overwhelming them and kind of just did and got wherever he wanted. J.J. Crawford has a very smooth game, very nice, smooth jump shot, too. I'm excited to watch to see how he develops as these years go on. I'll be keeping a nice eye on him. And also, Jamal Crawford, I didn't know he was a coach at Rainier Beach. But, yeah, he's one of the assistants at Rainier Beach, so it's kind of cool to watch him pull Tyron to the side and talk to him during certain plays. But I kind of just want to do a little bit more of a deep dive on Tyron Stokes. Tyron Stokes is a 6'7" small forward / point guard, in my opinion. So Tyron Stokes is a high-level passer, and I've talked about him on the pod before, but this is the first time I actually watched him in person. But, yeah, so he was for sure a high-level passer. I think for sure he is beyond the talent around him. There were a lot of plays, and I don't know how many assists he finished with, but he should have had an extra 5 or 6. He was making passes, and his teammates were missing or just they just couldn't anticipate his passes because he was, he's so much more advanced than they are. So I think a lot more of his passing will shine a lot more in college because he'll be playing with a lot better comparable players around him. Physical presence, this dude's a bull. He's a bully. I mean, he's huge. I think he's about 6'7". They got him listed at 230. I'm hard pressed to believe he's 230. He looks more closer to 250, 255, maybe 260. He's big. He's a big boy, man. But he has great agility, very solid ball handling for his size. I really like some of the things that I've seen him there. I think Tyron has to decide what he wants to do. If he's going to be a point forward, like a combo guard, like a small forward / point guard, like a Tatum, I think he needs to lose some weight. But if he's not going to lose the weight, then he's going to have to learn how to play from the free throw line down, in my opinion, because I think at the college level and for sure at the NBA level, him being at that weight and doing the things that I've seen him do, it ain't going to work. It ain't going to work. He got to decide. I think he needs to lose at least 15 to 20 pounds if he's going to be that point forward. And also he has to he's got to show more discipline, in my opinion. There were times during the game where I've seen him just showing a lack of leadership, bad body language, allowing offensive players to run past him so he can try to get a special block. And I'm just like, bro, just lock him up, But I want to say this. He had a really low motor, in my opinion, as well. Very low motor. I think he's got to improve on his conditioning. Like I said, there was a lot of times also where I seen him putting his hands on his hip really early in the game. I was like, man, this dude's already tired. But yeah, anyways, I do like Tyron Stokes. I know it sounds like I'm bagging on him, but I think in the grand scheme of things, I think he's a very high level passer. He's a physical specimen. He's got really good agility, very good ball handling. He just got to determine what kind of player he really wants to be. And if he wants to be a guard, if he wants to be a small forward, he wants to be a point forward, I think he needs to lose some weight and for sure have better shot selection and body language and being a leader, because that's what's going to also, determine where he's going to be. I think he's at best an average shooter. And that's at best. And I don't really care for his shooting mechanics personally. That's just my opinion. And then also, I think when it pertaining to him, he also, and this may be a hot take, but it's just, again, based off of what I've seen and based off what I've seen from other players in his class, I understand he's ranked the number 1 player, and I understand why, because of the physical specimen and the passing ability. But to me, he's not the best player in his class coming out. I don't believe that. I think some of the other guys have shown me that I think they're better long-term than he'll be. I think Jordan Smith, and that's somebody I'm getting ready to talk about, I think he's better than him. I think Jason Crow is. I think Caleb Holt is. I think potentially Anthony Thompson is. Or is it Thomas? No, it's Anthony Thompson. Anthony Thompson, I think he is. Yeah, there's a plethora of guys in this class that I think are better than him and will be better than him long-term. So I guess I'm putting that on the record. So that was that, and I just want to take time to talk about Tyron Stokes to you guys. Another game that happened was the championship game. We had Sierra Canyon out of California versus Columbus out of Florida. It's a championship game. Sierra Canyon won this game 67-60. The first half, I felt like Columbus was really trying to impose their physical will. I think Sierra handled it very well. Second half. The second quarter of the first half, I felt like Sierra Canyon moved the ball extremely well and was playing at their pace. I think Columbus had multiple opportunities to score in transition, and they just did not do it. It was very poor transition offense, in my opinion. Second half, both teams played with great energy and physicality. I felt like neither team was looking to shoot the three in the second half. It was a lot of, I'm going to put my shoulder down and try to get to the rim. It was very fun to watch. And a big shout out to some of the players. There was a lot of players in this game, and you guys are probably wondering why I'm choosing this game. We had the number 10 rated player in the class of 2026, 6'5" shooting guard, Brandon McCoy. He was in this game. We had also his teammate, Maximo Adams, 6'7" small forward. He's the number 25 rated kid in class of 2026. He's going to North Carolina. And then we had the Gaskin brothers. We had Caleb Gaskin, 6'8", power forward, ranked number 24 in class of 26. He's going to University of Miami. And then we had his freshman brother, Caden Gaskin, which I don't know if he's ranked or not. But anyways, I want to give some love and talk about these players that I just said to you guys. Because in the second half, Maximo Adams took over. I mean, completely took over in the second half. Every trip down the court was demanding the ball on the block. And mind you guys, Caleb Gaskins was guarding him too. This whole time, Caleb Gaskins was guarding him. It was either him or his brother Caden guarding him, but predominantly Caleb was guarding him. And Adams was doing damage. He has a very nice, let's talk about him first. He has a very nice form on his jump shot, in my opinion. I like the rotation he gets on the ball. He had multiple times throughout this game where he showed the ability to create space so he could get his shot off against Gaskin. Very offensively aggressive in the second half, like I told you guys. He was posting up, face up, shooting, just spot up shots, bringing the ball up, cutting without the ball. He was the best player on the floor, in my opinion, in this game. That's not to take away from Brandon McCoy, but Brandon McCoy, to me, I think he needs to bulk up for sure, because when Caleb Gaskin was guarding him, and even when they had another guard on Columbus, what was his last? I think his last name was like Jackson. I think was his last name. I think it was number 1, but he was a pretty stocky dude. He looked like he played football, truth be told. But even when he was guarding Brandon McCoy, I could tell McCoy was struggling to deal with their physicality. But don't get me wrong, Brandon McCoy still played with a lot of confidence. He wasn't as aggressive as I thought he would have been, or as I was hoping, I guess, for. But he also dealt with a lot of foul trouble throughout the game. Got called for some whack fouls, in my opinion. Some of them were whack. Some of them were, were called for. But I think Brandon McCoy, I'm interested to see just how he does, for the rest of this year in high school. I think he's somebody I've also talked about to you guys on the pod. I'm pretty sure I have. But, yeah, he's number 10 rated kid. But Maximo Adams was the best player on this court. And then Caleb Gaskin, to me, like I told you guys, 6'8", power forward, going to University of Miami. He has a college-ready body, for sure. Easily one of the biggest dudes on the court during this game. He plays very physical on the offense and defensive end. He's a great hustle player. I think for sure he needs to work on his jump shot and his form, but also he needs to work on, I think, his handle and his perimeter game, if he ever plans to have one. But if he's just going to be a power forward, I like him just as a power forward currently. But if he ever wants to play on the perimeter, for sure got to work on his jump shot and his skill. But he has physical tools, plays really good defense, very good defender. And then his little brother was kind of just a non-factor. I seen flashes of his athletic ability, Caden, but we'll see how he does. He's only a freshman, so we'll see how he does going through the rest of high school. So those are the 2 games of the week I got for you guys. And then games coming up. Let's talk about some NBA games coming up. Saturday, we get Boston at the Clippers. I think that's going to be a good game. Clippers have been playing much better as of late. Today, we get Phoenix at the Cavs. We get New York at the Spurs. Timberwolves at Atlanta. All those games are today. And then tomorrow, Thursday, we get the Heat at the Pistons. Friday, we get Atlanta at the Knicks. Friday, we also get Thunder at the Warriors. Friday, we also get Memphis at the Lakers. Always entertaining watching Memphis play the Lakers. And then Saturday, we get the Wolves at Miami. In college basketball, we're getting ready to start conference play. We get number 9 Michigan State at number 13 Nebraska. That's on Friday. Friday, we also get number 16 Louisville at Stanford. His name is Abuka. Obuka Okari, I think is his name. He's like 6'2". He plays for Stanford. Been playing very well this year. But to me, he just hasn't played competition yet. So I'm interested to see how he does playing against actual competition on Friday. And then Saturday, we get Virginia at North Carolina State. Virginia has a freshman on their team. He's pretty solid, so I'm excited to watch him play North Carolina State. And then Kentucky at number 14 Alabama. You already know what that matchup is going to consist of. A lot of potential prospects in that matchup. And then also Saturday, we get Oklahoma State at Texas Tech. We get Anthony Roy. Anthony Roy, I believe, led college basketball in scoring last year. He's been playing very well for Oklahoma State. He's a senior, but he's playing Texas Tech with Christian Anderson and JT Toppin. So I'm excited to watch that. And there's like, I'm not even BSing you guys. There's at least another 5 to 6 games in college basketball on Saturday. I just didn't write all of them down. And this episode's getting really long anyway, so I don't want to continue. But anyways, those are the games of the week. You guys let me know what games did you guys really enjoy watching this week, okay? My last segment is a segment I like to call In the Lab. Now, in the lab, I'm talking about today's NBA rookies, high school, college, or international basketball. We're going to stay in high school, and I'm going to try and go through this. I'm going to go through this really, really fast because this episode's already extremely long. So I'm going to talk about the City of Palms Classic Championship. We had PVI out of Virginia. They ended up beating Stepanik out of New York. It was the first title at the event for Virginia school since 1989. So this team starred none other than Jordan Smith Jr., 6'3", with a 6'9" wingspan. He's built. He's very stocky. He's a shooting guard. He won the MVP. He shot his shooting splits for this game. He shot 50% from the field, 33 from 3, 73% from the free throw line. He was 11 of 15 from the free throw line. For the tournament, he averaged 31 points. For this game, he had 31, 6, and 4 steals. And I'm just going to give some love. Like I said, I just want to talk about the prospects in this game. And Jordan Smith is ranked number 3 in the class of 2026, if I remember correctly. I believe his number is 3. But he's a bull. This dude is a bull. The motor, the relentlessness. He's a leader. He's not an I guy. He's a we guy. NBA ready body. Always plays 110%. I think he's a very capable and ready college defender. He's very solid on defense. Has really good defensive awareness. I think he needs to work on his playmaking and lifting the floor of his teammates. And also his awareness when playing in traffic as well needs to be worked on. To me, honestly, his player comp thus far, just from what I've seen, this was the first time I actually watched him play. Like, I've heard of him, but I never watched a full game of his. I actually watched this full game. He reminds me of Colin Sexton. That's kind of like his player comp, in my opinion. Another player, he was on the other side, is Josiah Jervis. He's a 6'4". He's ranked number 39 in class of 29. He's ranked 39 in class of 2026, and he's 6'4", shooting guard, 6'8" wingspan. He's going to Michigan State. During this game, he shot 57% from the field, 42% from 3, 100% from the free throw line. Only took 2 free throws. He had 21 points and 5 rebounds. He's very smooth with his shooting stroke. I really like his jump shot. He's not really good at creating his own shot right now. I think kind of needs someone to create a shot for him. But the tools are there, in my opinion, for him to develop into a better jump shooter. Into becoming a better shot creator. I think also he needs to bulk up. It's gonna be very fun to me watching Tom Izzo coach him up. Because to me, he's very reminiscent. It reminds me of another former Michigan State player, Max Christie. So I'm very excited to watch him at Michigan State next year. And then one of his teammates is one of the twins, the Ratliff twins. He's ranked number 43 in class of 2026, and that's Darius Ratliff. He's 7 foot center. He's going to USC. The twin, Adonis, is supposed to be better than him, but the twin didn't play in this game. They're both going to USC, I believe, if I remember correctly. I think they're both going to USC. I was very underwhelmed what I witnessed from him. Tallest dude out there. I didn't really feel his impact. And he plays very soft, not very imposing at all. He has a nice jump shot for him, though. Don't get me wrong. So I'll still probably be paying attention to him and his brother next year at USC. But I was kind of disappointed with him. So we'll check in with more high schoolers next week. I'm sorry, you guys, for making this episode so long. But there's more high schoolers that I watched because there was a City of Palms Classic that took place this weekend. And there's some players that played also more in that I want to talk about with you guys next week. But otherwise, you guys have a happy and good New Year's. And I want to let you guys know pretty soon here I will be releasing an audio version of my pod. So just stay out and look tuned for that, okay? PJ is out.